If only I could get one man to marry me or sleep with me to preserve this virginity and avoid the king's sacrifice tomorrow. Once upon a time in the small African village of Akin, there lived a very poor farmer named Chindu. Chindu was married to a beautiful woman, Chioma. Chindu and Chioma were so poor that they were treated like outcasts by their own people. The only thing Chindu and Chioma had was a small piece of land that was handed down to them by their ancestors. Chioma and Chindu barely survived on the little crop produce they harvested from their land. Chindu and Chioma had a lovely daughter named Chinyere. Ngozi was born with unique blue eyes and dreadlocks, which the villagers called Dada. The villagers were happy to welcome this rare gift from God, only to realize on her 4th birthday that she was blind. Why would God choose to keep this affliction? Chioma cried. On Chinyere's 10th birthday, her parents passed away from a mysterious illness, leaving her behind in this lonely world. Chinyere's only companion was her white dog, Chukwudi. Shortly after her parents' death, the village banished Chinyere from the village, claiming that she was a witch with bad luck and that she was the cause of her parents' death. Chinyere went to her parents' small farmland and built herself a hut where she lived alone with her wise dog. Chinyere was a very hard-working young girl, tending her parents' farm and growing crops to sustain herself and her dog. Chinyere worked so hard that her palms were strong and cracked, just like a very strong ancient rock. One fateful day, evil befell the village of Akin. The king's son, Chukwudi, committed a very heinous abomination that sent the entire village into deep darkness for 3 consecutive days. While they deliberated in the village of Akin, the king summoned the chief priests to the palace to find a solution to the problem. King Emeka, your son's offense carries heavy consequences beyond animal sacrifice. The king has 2 options to choose from. Either your son dies or you sacrifice 7 virgins to appease the gods. The chief priest said, "When can the virgin sacrifice be carried out?" King Emeka asked without hesitation or thinking twice, "As soon as the virgins are captured." The chief priest replied. The rumor of the king's decision spread throughout the entire village of Akin, and young maidens were thrown into serious panic. Have you heard the latest news of the king's verdict? The king's guards are currently in search of 7 virgins to sacrifice before the next market day. I can't afford to be a sacrifice. We have to find a way to escape this evil omen. Young virgin girls began to pack their belongings one after the other. Some left the village for neighboring towns. When the deadline drew closer and the search for young virgins intensified, girls escaped the village en masse. Others, who had no relatives, begged men to marry them for free. There was a mass wedding all over the village. 3 ladies would beg a man to marry them just to escape the wrath of the king. Chinyere, the blind orphan, heard the news and was totally broken. Is this how my life would end? I have been through so much pain in this cruel world. How can my situation get even worse? Tomorrow, I'll go into the village and plead with any man I come across to marry me, or at least sleep with me, to help me avoid the situation. Early the next morning, Chinyere set out to the village to try her luck. She met a group of men and laid her requests. "Greetings, good men of Akin. I am a poor blind orphan with no relatives. I want to. If only I could get one man to marry me or sleep with me to preserve this virginity and avoid the king's sacrifice," Chinyere pleaded. The men burst out in very loud laughter. Then they counted me for a moment, then raised their hands. "We are not marrying up the beautiful young girls on our necks offering all riches. It is you, a blind outcast, with nothing to offer, that we would consider," they cried. Chinyere cried all through her way back home that day. Her companion dog was all she had in this world since I live in the bush. "Maybe they will not be able to find me," she prayed. Surprisingly early the next morning, 2 palace guards stormed her hut and captured Chinyere. "Please let me go, as I am of no use to the gods. I am poor and blind," Chinyere pleaded. The palace guards ignored Chinyere's pleas and took her to an open field at the outskirts of the village. A long fight ensued as all the unfortunate virgins were tied and thrown into a grave to be buried alive. As the darkness laid heavy upon the entire village, with her last breath, Nain pronounced, "It will never be well with the people of Akin. You shall live in fear, darkness, loneliness, and disability. You shall experience all that have been true." Nain took her last breath and died. Nain's dog never left her side. He stayed by her grief-stricken side day and night, barking all through the night, hoping that Nain would return. On the fourth night, it was no longer the poor, blind Nain. It was now Yunin, with fierce eyes seeking vengeance on all her enemies. That fateful night, with Chinyer leading the way, they tore down the house of the haunter, showing the palace guards her heart in the bush. Yunin barked in front of his house for hours, and as the haunter came out to see why his trained dog was barking, he received a hot slap from Chinyer's rocky, calcified hands. The haunter became paralyzed, and this pattern continued for days, leaving many villagers disabled. The news of the horrifying encounters spread throughout Akin, and the villagers lived in panic. Some village elders summoned courage and reported to the king seeking a solution, but King Emiko dismissed them, saying they were spreading false rumors. One evening, as the queen prepared dinner with her maids, a dog's continual barking was heard outside the palace. The queen was thrown into pandemonium, but before she could realize what was happening, she got a heavy slap on her cheek. It felt like she was hit by a very heavy rock. The queen tried to shout, but she couldn't. She realized she was dumb. She broke down in tears. However, she could not speak. At this point, King Emika believed the rumors and decreed that all the dogs in the village be slaughtered within the next 24 hours. Great people of Akin, to save us from the recent nightmare that has befallen our land, the king has graciously passed the decree for all dog owners to slaughter their dogs in the next 24 hours. The town crier screamed. Dog owners rushed to slaughter their dogs, fearing the decree. Yet the dog of Yunin was nowhere to be found. One still night, as the entire village was silently asleep, Prince Emiko was sleeping in his chambers. Suddenly, the dreaded dog's bark was heard outside his window. In the twinkle of an eye, Nain's heavy slap echoed. "Ah, who has struck me now? Gods, where are you when someone strikes me? And why are the lights off?" Prince Emiko cried. By the following morning, the prince realized he was blind. The king was left with a blind son and a dumb wife. Sorrow, grief, and darkness covered the entire village, from the least citizen to the king's palace. The people of Akin suffered hard and soft-heartedness for years, and finally they repented of their evil ways and vowed never to discriminate against the poor and disabled in the village. Thank you for watching the video. We hope you enjoyed it. I would like to ask you to please like this video, subscribe to our channel, and activate the notification bell to receive updates about new videos. It is also important to share this video on WhatsApp and other social media platforms because it can transform lives. And by doing this, you help us reach more people. God bless you for doing that. Stay tuned for the next video.